Explain the seven equations from a scientific slash evolutionary perspective on why it works, and I'd also like to explain the seven equations from a spiritual perspective. Because that works too. Although many people won't accept a spiritual perspective, because to them, to a lot of people, spiritual perspectives are bullshit. But anyways, let's get into this. It's basically a path in life to all knowledge, which includes, like science and philosophy and spirituality, But it's also a path in life. It's also it's basically the instinctive ability of the human mind. Within the instinctive ability of the human mind lies the ability to say God's name. And that's basically a map to God's name, And yep. Let me explain. Evolution equals life divided by reproduction. Okay. With an eternal being, God, eternal being, you gotta realize, to begin something and end something, that's a day, right? They obviously used evolution to create humans. And destiny, from whatever the Big Bang was, when God willed the universe into existence, there was a sequence of events that's going on that this omnipotent being knew what was going to happen because they're omnipotent and they started it and they know what's going to happen, because it's a sequence of events with universal laws like gravity and inertia and warp space-time affecting things and light and, heat affecting things and everything affects everything else, And there's just a path every atom's following and God knows what it's doing, And it created the earth, created our home, and eventually created the properties needed for life, and then boom, life existed or whatever. Then 4 billion years go by, humans exist. 300,000 years go by, civilized humans exist, Still the same human, just civilized now, you know what I mean? Anyways, not living in nature anymore or whatever. But anyways, it's all destiny, And when I think of the 4 billion years that it took for the first spark of life to create a human, when I look at that from the observation point of an eternal being, that living in eternity, I realize that how many times the earth spins, has no concept to them, like they don't care about stuff like that. They have an eternal mind. They don't care about the earth spinning. That's not a day. Anyways, the next one, soul equals life divided by growth. And now to be able to, say God's name, you got to grow your soul right. They say when people die, their life flashes before their eyes. If you can have that thought of your entire life, the thought of your entire life and everything that's you've done in your life and everything's affected your growth, and then you realize it because you had that final thought, you're going to judge yourself. You're going to know if you're the type of person that God let in their house or not, You just know. As to be let in God's house or not, it's not like a big deal. It's just, it's a spot it's a place that exists, just a place to exist of many infinite places that exist. Of course, none are as good, but, your ancestors got a spot. All the forms of life got a spot. Anyways, yeah, you just got to grow your soul right. And the next one, wisdom equals life divided by time. As you age, you grow wiser. The path to being able to say God's name is a path in life, Like wisdom to the path. You have to follow this path to gain the wisdom to be able to say God's name. Our Bible equals mind plus nature. I gotta realize, like I said, our Bible, that's just God's teachings or whatever. But as a being of eternal consciousness, their name's been the same this whole time for eternity. Their language has been the same time for eternity, And they existed in eternity. Their words existed in eternity, you know what I mean? And their name existed in eternity. So you gotta have that thought. And you're like, okay. So they communicate with consciousness. Because, that's their original language. They existed before human words existed. They existed before, Everything needed for all these human characteristics needed for survival on this planet existed. You know what I mean? Before male and female existed. You know what I mean? And because in all reality, most people believe, well, not most people, but like book religions believe in, a male version of God. And in reality, God's been the same this whole time and exists for eternity. Before this reality existed, they existed for eternity, which is forever. It's a long, long time. It's forever. They've been the same, And the best argument I have is the crudest argument I have, but it's the best, so I use it. Why would God have a penis in eternity? Ask yourself that question, Seriously, ask yourself that question. Anyways, God's the element of consciousness. So, everything God created, as our Bible, everything God created, you can observe it, such as water, stone, fire, electricity, air, gravity, inertia, everything. The moon, the stars, your mind. When you observe everything God created with your mind that God also created, you gain a conscious understanding, And that's their language, consciousness. There's no words there, no human words. But it's more powerful. A conscious understanding is more powerful than any group of human words, you know what I mean? It's the word of God, basically. And what you do is, you observe all this stuff, and you gain these conscious understandings, in your mind. And the more conscious understandings you have in your mind, you naturally learn to do things like survive and thrive, and have philosophy, and, science, and spirituality, even religion. But, the way I look at spirituality, it's kind of sexist, because men do think logically and women do think emotionally, but they both think with emotions and logic at the same time, but men are more prone to logic and women are more prone to emotion. So I've always thought that, religion, I can see it with women, because I know women are different with their thought process, but men, being logical, it's like, you gonna believe that stuff? Come on, man. Like, that's maybe when you're a kid, But anyway, yeah. So it's basically God's language is consciousness. So we can observe their creation, we gain, their wisdom in the form of understandings, in the form of conscious thoughts in our mind. And we gather these conscious understandings and it strengthens our mind. And we're able to understand things like who God is and stuff, and all kinds of stuff about God. And then let's go to these ones. Knowledge equals meditation plus understandings. That one's basically like, let me start here. I'd start here because these go down, you know what I mean? Understandings equals mind plus observations. God created our mind to observe their creation and gain understandings. It's very simple. Touch fire, it's hot. Same with everything else. The more you understand, the more the understanding will grow. Meditation equals mind minus stimuli. When you ignore your vision, you're better able to, access your mind in meditation. It's basically like diverting power from, your stimuli, which visual stimuli is the hardest. All that visual stimuli that your mind's processing, you stop doing it and you use that energy to think instead, Very simple. And of course, there's this one. You look up the cross video, you figure this one out. And then, so meditation is basically thinking. It's a very natural process. It's just thinking. Knowledge equals meditation plus understandings. This one is very simple. Knowledge is basically when you understand something. You have all these understandings in your mind. And let's you ask yourself a question, you grow those understandings in your mind into words. It's as simple as that. It's when the understandings grow into words. Well, not even words. That's just a product of the knowledge, I guess. You gain this knowledge and then you're able to put words to your understandings, kind of thing, It's like if you touch fire and it burns the shit out of you. And then you're like, fire's hot, There had to be a first human to figure out fire was hot. In any case, yeah. And then when it comes to being able to use this stuff to say God's name, it's real simple. It's real simple. You have to understand everything about God, You have to gain all the understandings they placed in their creation. All of them. You got to gain all those understandings. And once you have all those understandings, you'll be able to answer questions that we all ask. Like this one. Do you exist, God? Or this one. Who are you, God? You know? Or all the other ones. And once you come to a level of understanding, you know, of who this eternal being is, you know, and you can form that thought in your mind, you know what I'm saying? Have that conscious thought with your consciousness in your mind, you know, where there's no words, no human words, of course, but just a conscious thought of who God is, you know. It's kind of like an eternal thought. It's like a thought you can have, and you can seriously spend the rest of your life having this thought, you know, because it's a thought, a complete thought of the eternal being that created all of us. You know, that's their name. You use consciousness to say their name because they existed in a reality where they were an element of eternal consciousness forever, you know, and they had a name. And since they were an element of consciousness, that's how you say their name in their original language. With your consciousness. It's a complete thought of who they are. You know what I mean? In any case, yeah, that's these 7 equations from a spiritual perspective. You know what I mean? And that's important too. I think that's important too because the way I look at it is that's the name I'm gonna, you know, cry out while I'm dying, you know, or after I die, if I could say anything, I want to have that conscious thought of God, you know, say their name, because hey, I don't think I have to explain why that's important to be able to say God's name. It is important.